Breaking. Sadiq Khan just unleashed the most brutal attack on King Charles in modern British history. His exact words were so shocking that palace officials called emergency meetings at midnight. Within 72 hours, London erupted into chaos that's spreading across Britain right now. And what happened next could destroy the relationship between the monarchy and Britain's major cities forever. If you want to see how this constitutional crisis explodes, hit that subscribe button right now because the next 48 hours will change everything you thought you knew about British politics. Here's what sparked the absolute meltdown. 3 days ago, King Charles made a decision that nobody saw coming. At 9:15 a.m. on Tuesday morning, Buckingham Palace announced that His Majesty would personally intervene in London's housing crisis by opening royal estates to British families struggling with homelessness. His statement was crystal clear. While hardworking British families sleep in temporary dark accommodation, we possess resources that must serve the nation. But Sadiq Khan wasn't grateful. The London mayor wasn't humbled by royal generosity. Khan exploded with rage instead. Within 2 hours of the palace announcement, Khan called an emergency press conference that would ignite the biggest political firestorm of 2025. Standing outside City Hall at 11:47 a.m., Sadiq Khan delivered what witnesses described as the most aggressive attack on the monarchy any British politician has dared to make in living memory. His exact words were chilling. King Charles thinks he can waltz into London politics and play savior. Khan's voice shook with fury. This is performative charity from a billionaire family sitting on stolen wealth. London doesn't need royal handouts. We need the crown to pay their fair share in taxes. The crowd of journalists gasped audibly. Khan continued, his finger jabbing the air. For 300 years, the monarchy has extracted wealth from this city while Londoners suffered. Charles wants headlines. I'll give him headlines. Return the wealth you've hoarded, or stay out of London's business. The response was swift and devastating. Within hours, the hammer fell across Britain. Conservative MPs erupted in fury. Labour's own shadow cabinet distanced themselves from Khan's words. Even longtime Republican activists admitted Khan had crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed. Sources inside Westminster describe absolute panic, spreading through political corridors as the magnitude of Khan's miscalculation became horrifyingly clear. Meanwhile, British veterans who served Queen Elizabeth II faithfully for decades are struggling to find affordable housing in the very capital they defended. James Morrison, a 71-year-old Falklands veteran from Lewisham, was living in a cramped bedsit with black mold covering the walls. His pension barely covers rent that keeps climbing every year while landlords grow richer. I fought for this country, James said, tears in his eyes. Now I can barely afford to live in it. His story isn't unique. It's the reality for thousands of British heroes across London. Margaret Fletcher, and 68-year-old former NHS nurse from Barking, spent 43 years caring for patients during Britain's darkest health crisis. Now she's sleeping in her daughter's living room because her pension of $642 monthly cannot cover London rent. I gave my whole life to this city's hospitals. Margaret told reporters with shaking hands, "Where's Sadiq Khan's housing plan for people like me?" These are the invisible victims of London's housing catastrophe. Pensioners who built modern Britain now cast aside while City Hall focuses on international publicity stunts and virtue signaling about global issues. While these veterans and retired workers suffer in silence, Sadiq Khan enjoys a mayoral salary of $152,734 plus expenses while living in taxpayer-funded accommodation. We're talking about luxury offices, private security details, chauffeur-driven cars to every engagement, foreign travel costing hundreds of thousands annually. The contrast is so stark, so morally repulsive, that even KHN's own Labour colleagues are questioning his judgment. And when King Charles offered tangible help to families like James Morrison's and Margaret Fletcher's, Khan responded not with gratitude, but with vicious political attacks. The optics are absolutely devastating for Labour's London power base. Then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles broke 70 years of royal protocol with a response that shattered every rule in the constitutional playbook. At 4:33 p.m. yesterday afternoon, during what was supposed to be a routine garden party at Buckingham Palace, His Majesty delivered an unscheduled address that left 300 guests in stunned silence. For those who question royal duty, King Charles declared with quiet intensity, "Let me be abundantly clear. This monarchy exists to serve Britain, not to engage in political theater with those who mistake publicity for leadership." The room erupted in sustained applause that lasted nearly 4 minutes. Palace insiders reveal that Charles personally rewrote the speech just hours earlier, ignoring advice from senior courtiers who begged him to remain silent. One aide described the king as absolutely resolute, more determined than we've seen since the Queen's passing. The carefully chosen words contained devastating hidden meaning by saying those who mistake publicity for leadership. Charles wasn't just responding to Khan, he was exposing him as a shallow opportunist more concerned with headlines than helping Londoners. The optics are catastrophic for Sadiq Khan, a sitting London mayor publicly humiliated by the sovereign himself. Senior Labour MPs privately confirm they're mortified by the international embarrassment Khan has brought upon the party. But wait, because there's another layer to the king's intervention that makes Khan's position even more precarious. Constitutional historians immediately recognized what Charles had done. Professor Helena Bradshaw from Cambridge University called it the most sophisticated use of soft constitutional power in modern royal history. By framing his housing initiative as service rather than politics, Charles positioned himself as above partisan conflict while simultaneously exposing Khan's attack as purely political opportunism. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, broke his usual silence on political matters to praise the king's moral leadership in times of national housing emergency. Even more damaging for Khan, Muslim community leaders across London began publicly distancing themselves from the mayor, despite him being Britain's most prominent Muslim politician. Imam Abdullah Rahman from East London Central Mosque issued a statement saying attacking charitable works, regardless of who performs them, contradicts Islamic principles of compassion and gratitude. That Rahman Islamic principles of compassion statement cut deep because Khan has always positioned himself as representing British Muslim interests now his own community was rebuking. Him for attacking the king's charitable initiative, the domino effect began, immediately and brutally. Within 90 minutes of Charles's speech, $847 million was pledged by private donors to the Royal Housing Initiative. 17 major British corporations announced partnerships with palace-backed housing trusts. Property developers across southeast England offered land at cost price for veterans' accommodation projects. The economic impact was instant and undeniable. KHN's alternative proposals, crickets, complete silence from City Hall about matching royal commitment with actual resources. Polls showed devastating results. 68% of Londoners supported King Charles's intervention. Only 19% backed Khan's response. Even in Labour strongholds like Newham and Tower Hamlets, support for the mayor collapsed by 23 points overnight. Embarking in Dagenham, traditionally solid Labour territory, 71% of residents said they trusted King Charles more than Sadiq Khan to solve London's housing crisis. Defend the King trended globally for 36 consecutive hours, accumulating 4.7 million mentions. Counter-protests erupted outside City Hall with crowds chanting KHN must go until police dispersed them after midnight. And here's the truly shocking part. Protests spread beyond London. Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Glasgow all saw spontaneous demonstrations supporting the monarchy against what protesters called Khan's Republican coup attempt. Britain wasn't just watching one mayor's meltdown. The nation was witnessing the complete collapse of radical London politics in real time. Inside Labour headquarters on Sadiq Street, the atmosphere is being described as a five-alarm disaster. Senior party officials are engaged in brutal shouting matches about how to contain KHN's catastrophic blunder. Shadow cabinet members are allegedly threatening resignations if Cayenne isn't publicly rebuked. Deputy Mayor Sophie Linden was reportedly overheard telling colleagues, "He's finished. We all know it. The only question is how much damage he causes before he's forced out." WhatsApp groups with names like Save London Labour are frantically plotting intervention strategies. Multiple party sources confirm emergency meetings scheduled every 4 hours to assess the rapidly deteriorating situation. The tension inside Khan's own team is equally explosive. His chief of staff, Nick Bowes, allegedly had a screaming confrontation with the mayor about his suicidal political instincts. 3 junior advisors have quietly updated their LinkedIn profiles, a telltale sign they're preparing to abandon ship. Khan himself appears increasingly isolated, sources say, pacing his office alone late into the night, refreshing Twitter obsessively, watching his political capital evaporate in real time. One longtime ally admitted off the record, Saudi doesn't understand what he's done. He thinks he's fighting power. He's actually destroying himself. Emergency phone calls between KHN and Labour leader Keir Starmer allegedly became so heated that staff members could hear shouting through closed doors. Starmer reportedly told Khan in no uncertain terms, "You've made my job impossible. How am I supposed to campaign on respecting British institutions when my London mayor is attacking the bloody king?" But here's the layer that could trigger KHN's complete political annihilation. Leaked documents from Khan's own policy unit show something that contradicts everything he publicly claimed. If these documents are real, and if they show what multiple senior labor sources claim, then Khan knew Charles's housing initiative would succeed. Internal City Hall projections dated 2 weeks before the King's announcement estimated royal involvement could house 12,000 London families within 18 months. KHN's own experts told him the palace plan was superior to anything City Hall had developed. The leaked spreadsheet shows City Hall's best housing proposal would accommodate 4,200 families over 2 years at a cost of $340 million in public funding. The royal initiative would house 3 times as many people in less time at zero cost to taxpayers. KHN's own housing advisor, Dr. Patricia Okafor, allegedly wrote in an internal memo, "We should welcome and support royal involvement." Opposing this would be politically suicidal and morally indefensible. Yet, he attacked it anyway. Think about what that means. Khan deliberately sabotaged an initiative his own team confirmed would help thousands of struggling Londoners. Why? Pure political calculation. He couldn't allow King Charles to succeed where he had failed. He couldn't let the monarchy solve a crisis that exposed his own incompetence. So he chose personal ambition over London's welfare. The optics of that would be absolutely devastating if confirmed. We're talking about potential resignation, possible criminal investigation into misconduct in public office, and the complete destruction of Khan's political future forever. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and Reform UK are positioning themselves as the defenders of British constitutional tradition while Labour tears itself apart. While Khan rages and Labour implodes, Farage appeared on GB News speaking with the calm confidence of a man who knows history just handed him London on a silver platter. Sadiq Khan has shown us exactly what Labour really thinks about Britain. Farage declared, "They despise our monarchy. They despise our traditions. They despise the very identity that makes us British. No mockery, no aggression, just devastating observation." Reform UK membership applications from London residents surged 340% in 72 hours. Campaign donations from small donors flooded party accounts, with the average contribution being £47 from ordinary working people fed up with what they see as KHN's attack on Britishness itself. For the first time in modern history, Reform is competitive in inner London bursars that haven't voted Conservative since that. Candidates are being recruited in every London constituency, and 3 sitting Labour councillors have already defected to Reform, citing complete disgust with Khan's anti-British agenda. The polls tell the story. In a hypothetical London mayoral election held today, KHN drops to 31%. Conservative candidate rises to 28%, and Reform UK surges to 26%. A 3-way race, a fractured capital, and a political realignment that could hand Britain's most important city to populist forces for the first time ever. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Farage isn't just capitalizing on Khan's mistake. He's building a complete alternative vision for London that appeals directly to the working-class voters Labour has abandoned. At a rally in Dagenham last night, Farage unveiled Reform UK's London First Housing Plan that promises to prioritise British citizens over international investors and recent arrivals. For too long, Farage told a crowd of 2,400 people, "London has served global elites while British families sleep in cars." The crowd roared approval. King Charles understands this. Why doesn't Sadiq Khan? More roaring. The optics are devastating because Farage is successfully positioning Reform as more caring about ordinary Londoners than Labour's own mayor. Senior Conservative strategists are reportedly panicking because Reform isn't just damaging Labour. They're becoming the natural home for patriotic working-class voters across the political spectrum. One Tory MP admitted privately, "We thought Reform would peak at 15%. They're heading for 30% in some London burrs. This isn't a protest vote anymore. It's a realignment." Khan's attack on King Charles may have accidentally triggered the complete reshaping of London politics for a generation. The international dimension makes this crisis even more severe for Britain's global standing. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau subtly praised King Charles's commitment to addressing homelessness in the Commonwealth, a statement interpreted as indirect criticism of KHN's response. Australian opposition leader Peter Dutton was less diplomatic, calling Khan's comments a disgrace to the Commonwealth and an insult to constitutional monarchy. New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said attacking charitable works because of who performs them reveals character flaws unsuitable for leadership. Even American political commentators weighed in with Fox News running a segment titled "London's Radical Mayor Declares War on King Charles." CNN's international affairs analyst described the situation as unprecedented constitutional friction that damages Britain's image as a stable democracy. Britain's reputation for political stability and respect for institutions is being shattered by one man's ego-driven outburst. Foreign investors are privately expressing concerns about London's political environment. Two major international property developments in London have reportedly been put on hold pending assessment of political stability risks. That means jobs lost, investment delayed, and economic damage that will take years to repair. All because Sadiq Khan couldn't contain his personal animosity toward the monarchy. And here's something that hasn't been reported anywhere else yet. Senior civil servants inside the Greater London Authority are allegedly preparing contingency plans for Khan's potential removal from office. Under the Greater London Authority Act, the mayor can be removed if he brings the office into disrepute or acts against London's interests. Legal experts are quietly reviewing whether Khan's attack on the Royal Housing Initiative, combined with his refusal to cooperate with a successful charitable project, constitutes grounds for removal. One senior GLA officer speaking on condition of absolute anonymity revealed, "We've never had to consider this before. But if KHN continues blocking royal housing projects out of personal spite, we may have no choice but to explore constitutional options." That's explosive because it means Khan isn't just fighting political opponents anymore. He's fighting his own civil service who see him as actively harming Londoners. The constitutional mechanism exists to remove a mayor who acts against London's interests. Khan may have just proven he's exactly that kind of mayor. The next 96 hours are absolutely critical for Britain's constitutional stability. King Charles is scheduled to visit 3 London boroughs next week for housing project launches. KHN has refused to attend any royal events, creating an unprecedented public split. Royal protection officers are privately concerned about security risks if Republican activists stage confrontations. Labour leader Keir Starmer faces impossible choices: publicly rebuke KHN and fracture his say London base, or stay silent and appear weak on defending the monarchy. Britain is watching constitutional chaos unfold in real time. This crisis will be studied for decades as the moment when radical London politics collided with centuries of constitutional tradition and lost spectacularly. At its epicenter stands Sadiq Khan, who looks increasingly desperate, isolated, and finished. Not since the abdication crisis of 1936 has Britain witnessed such fundamental questioning of the relationship between elected officials and the crown. The last time something like this happened, a king gave up his throne. This time, it's a mayor who's destroying his career. So, here's the question that matters. Does Sadiq Khan survive this, or is he finished as a political force? Did King Charles just end Khan's career with 12 carefully chosen words? Or did Khan accidentally expose how deeply Londoners still love their monarchy? What do you think? Will Khan resign before he's forced out? Or will civil servants invoke constitutional powers to remove him? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one because this conversation matters more than ever. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in British politics right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth about how London's radical mayor just committed political suicide by attacking the king, but we will. And don't go anywhere because tomorrow we're revealing the leaked internal documents that prove Khan knew his attack would backfire. You won't believe what his own advisors were telling him behind closed doors. This is just the beginning of the biggest political earthquake London has seen in 50.